and story were written back in the year 2015 on August 26th. It was a Wednesday apparently, and it was posted at 3 o'clock, 3:18 a.m. Central Daylight Time, and this person writes their story as such. I am not a search and rescue officer or an elite hiker by any means, but these are my two stories, and I will post the reveals because they are honestly so mundane. A few years back, with a large group of scouts in Butano State Park in California, we were hiking some godforsaken dense forest trail in the wet California winter rains. The first night, the raccoons rolled a bunch of our bear containers down a gully into a creek. We were able to find them. On the second day, we encountered a road and a checkpoint. The guard booth was abandoned. There were no signs, but we concluded that it was an abandoned prison. We, as adults, would have gone there, however. We didn't want to endanger the kids, so we hiked on. Later that night around 1 a.m., I was awakened by the sound of a gunfire. It was about 100 plus yards away, which is roughly 91.44 meters. And of course, it was not the sounds of pistols. It was some very loud, sharp, and poppy guns. Different guns. It started off slow, and then it was steady for maybe 100 plus or more from several different guns. Then, when the other guns stopped, the loudest one kept firing, and it wasn't full automatic, but it was a lot of rapid fired shots. I really never got the count of the magazine between reloads, but this went on for about 20 minutes in total, and then it just stopped. I got out of my sleeping bag, out of my tent, and I hiked about 30 yards through the brush to the other campsite in the dark without my light on, which is of course 27.43 meters. Honestly, I didn't want anyone to see me. I got to the campsite and the kids were all still asleep, but the other adults just heard it, had no idea what it was. Maybe they were pot farmers in a gunfight with intruders? I don't know. And perhaps it is better that it stays like that. Next morning, it was a topic of conversation, but most of the kids had actually slept through it. After we left and got home, I talked to the ranger, and they said that sometimes people break into the prison and they use the old gun range, which is of course unauthorized. My other story was camping in Big Sur Silver Park. I was alone, but only about 5 miles from the road. I had just finished dinner and I lay down to sleep. After a few minutes I heard kind of a crunch sound that sounded like footsteps outside. Again, I lifted my head to see what direction they were coming from or whether it was close. Nothing. This cycle repeated a couple of times until I decided to turn over and open my tent flap to get a look around outside with the flashlight. I was expecting to see a person out there, walking around in the dark, but I saw nothing. I heard nothing. I zipped up and I put my head back down. I tried to go back to sleep. Then again. Again, I lifted my head. It stopped. I tried to readjust. I looked outside again, and I couldn't find the source. It certainly wasn't my heart, because that was thumping like mad. This kept me awake for hours that evening. I was terrified that there was someone or something out there. Something or someone who heard me move my head. And stopped walking, only to continue. When they thought I had fallen asleep again. When they thought I had fallen back asleep. Maybe past midnight, but eventually I fell asleep. Next morning, I had breakfast, broke camp, and as I set up my tent, I noticed that my head was over a gopher hole.